Okay, so we're doing mocha planar tracking. The core technology behind mocha is a planar tracker, which is a very strange beast. It's not a 3D camera tracker. It is not a 2D point tracker. It's a whole nother concept. In fact, Mocha Pro bases 5 technologies on this one science of planar tracking. The idea of a planar tracker is it grabs a chunk of the screen, and then it'll follow that chunk over time. And I tell it what chunk I want, like this. I'm going to stop this, go to the head of my shot. I'm going to draw a shape, and I'm going to tell it to track this part of the screen. So I'll turn on the matte. You can see that's the area I'm covering. So I'll tell it to track forward. Now the way of Mocha is you track a part of the screen, and then you draw your roto shapes and link them to this track, and now those shapes will follow the screen. That's the whole force multiplier of the planar tracker when you're doing rotoscoping. Okay, so we're almost done with our track. I'll jump back to the beginning of the shot, and I'll hide that guy, and I'm going to turn these guys on. As you can see, I've drawn them for you to save time, but they're not at all tracked with the scene. All I have to do is tell them to hook themselves up to the tracking data that I just collected, and now they're tracked with the shot. Okay. This is the force multiplier planar track. I do not have to keyframe all those guys over the length of the whole shot. The tracker does the work for me. Let me show you another aspect of the planar tracker that I just love, and that is its tremendous immunity to interference. Let's take a situation here. I need a mask on these 2 windows up here. So I'm going to draw as before. I'm going to draw my tracker shape. Oops, I went off the screen. Oh dear. Oh well, let's see what happens. So now I'm going to track this backward. Because the planar tracker is grabbing a whole chunk of the screen, it's able to follow the target completely out of frame, because the part down here is still good. So it's able to lock onto whatever's in the frame. Okay. So I'm going to get a good track for those 2 windows, even though I've gone out of frame. Okay, we're all there. We're done. Okay, I'll rehome the viewer, turn off that one, and I'll turn on the top windows, and I'm going to hook them up to my new tracker there. We'll push in a little bit here, catch the action. So now when I play the clip, those guys go right out of frame without a problem. If you've ever tried to do a corner pin track on something that even one of the corners goes out of the frame, you'll see how incredibly helpful this is. All right, so let's take a look at another situation. I'm going to turn that off. I want to track this part of the building here, but look at the guy. You got this guy in the way, okay? He's right in the area that I want to track. So let's do this. I'm going to draw a tracking shape. I'm deliberately giving the planar tracker a nasty problem, okay? Because this guy is now in the middle of my tracking space, and when I try to track this part of the picture, the tracker is going to be confused by the interference of that character, right? The reason I'm doing this is to show you how to fix this. There's this really psychotic trick you can do with the planar tracker. You can use the planar tracker to track a garbage mask to isolate the mask for the planar tracker. It's really weird. You'll love this. All right, so I'm going to turn on the planar surface and the planar grid, and you can see that it's all drifting and twitching, and it's not locked to the picture at all. All right, so I have a bad track. So here's how I'm going to fix that problem. I'm going to hide this guy. I'm going to call this, by the way, my building track. And I'm going to turn him off. And I'm going to go back to my guy. And I'm going to do a quick and dirty. And the lovely thing about this is how careful you have to be in drawing these shapes. They have to be very precise, you see, as you can see. The planar tracker is intelligent. It knows what pixels are moving relative to the background and what are moving in unison and what's moving out of unison. So I'm going to, even though this character is not a planar surface, it's not a flat wall or a flat 4, I'm going to be able to track on him this garbage map. And that's enough information for the planar tracker to lock on that character. I don't have to keyframe this. I'm not stepping through every 10 frames to put down another keyframe on the darn thing. I can go get a cup of coffee. And when I come back, the tracker has done the work for me. So we're almost done here. And there we go. Now I'm going to call this my man garbage mat, because this is going to be a garbage mat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this. You see what's happened here is this garbage mat is now a holdout mat for the area that I wish to track. So now the planar tracker will only see the good pixels. And the kicky thing is I did that using the planar tracker. So now I'm going to retrack the same area with that garbage mat holding out the interference. Again, the planar tracker is remarkably resilient and immune to interferences like grain, fluctuations in lighting, motion blur. The planar tracker can actually track a zip pan. Okay, now let me turn off all this other hoo-ha here. Now if I turn on the planar surface and I play that for you, it's now nicely locked to the background. Okay? So, one of the things about a planar tracker that you should know is the math behind a planar tracker is such that you can get gradual drift over the life of the track. What's different about a planar tracker and why it can do these amazing tricks is because it's comparing frame 1 to frame 2, then frame 2 to frame 3, and then frame 3 to frame 4. And that's how it collects the tracking data. The key is you get microscopic errors that drift over time, so we have a very simple, elegant tool for fixing that drift. Let me zoom in for you here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place my planar surface. You see that little zoom window up here? See that zoom window? I'm going to place that dead nuts on that dark circle so that there is a very clear lineup reference for you to tell if there's even the tiniest amount of drift. Now, this planar surface, the planar tracker is computing, think of it as a infinite pane of glass of zero thickness that's glued to that wall, and it's moving with the wall. This is a blue felt marker drawing somewhere on the glass. That's all it is. So what I can do now is go over to the adjust track mode here, and if I click on this button here, you see it says the master frame is popped up right here. That means this is my starting point. If I jump to the end of the shot, look at my current frame. It's off. So now all I have to do is do a little repo on that guy, and I have fixed it. I can come to this one, and the master frame is dead center, but the current frame is off. So I'm fixing the drift one corner at a time. Here we go. There we are, and get the last one here. Okay, there. So if I go to this one, and now if I play the clip, you can see the current frame is pitching and yawing, but it's staying locked on the target. I have fixed all the drift. Now, here's what I can do with that. I can use that not only to track rotos onto my building, but I can also use it as four-corner pin data to add a graphic to the shot. So let's take a look at that. We'll go back to the track, rehome the viewer. And I'm going to take my, I've already drawn the shape for you, this shape here. I'm going to hide my building track. Okay, you'll see this is not tracked at all. I'm going to turn on the planar surface for you. So you see that is not tracked at all. I have just, what I've done is I've just drawn it in the area that I wish to have my graphic. I'm going to do a four-corner pin on a graphic, okay? This is not a roto now. I'm doing something different. So I need to animate that to stay on the building, so I'm going to tell the logo to use the building track data, and now that shape is properly tracked to the building. Then I'm going to tell that guy to go get yourself a shameless self-serving graphic element here, and now that's tracked to the building. Okay, so I'm using the planar tracking data in two different ways. I'm using it to lock rotos onto my target. I'm also using it to do corner pin tracking. I can now export this data. Mocha is a team player. Mocha plays nice with After Effects, Nuke, Shake, Combustion, Flame. I'm a nuker, so I'm going to be showing you the Nuke stuff. Okay. In fact, what I do, I don't work for Imagineer. I'm a Nuke trainer. I travel around the world to visual effects facilities and teach them Nuke visual effects compositing, and a lot of my Nuke customers have asked for Mocha because Mocha plays very nice with Nuke. All right, so I'm going to take some of those rotos. I'll turn this guy off here. Let's take the window mask, our these guys here, remember, we've got these all tracked real nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to export these directly into Nuke. Very simply, I'm going to just say I want to export the shape data. You have a lot of options here for all the different things you can do with that. And I want the Nuke 6 Roto. I'll say copy this to the clipboard. Then I'll fire up Nuke. And I'll bring in the same clip in Nuke. It's actually reading the exact same clip off of disk. So please bring in that export Nuke script. And there it is. Okay, so we're in Nuke now. And I have copied those roto shapes to the clipboard. So in Nuke, I'll simply paste these in. There they are. Let me turn them red for you. So all those rotos that I did in Mocha are now instantly put into Nuke. I can also import into Nuke the tracking data. So let's go back to Mocha. And I had tracked this guy in. So let's take this guy. And we're going to export his tracking data. What this is going to give me is the four-corner pin of that blue window. Okay? And that's going to go right into Nuke. You can also export, if you want, translate, rotate, and scale transformations, but they're not as useful as a corner pin, because the corner pin is going to have the skew, perspective, and everything. So this is the most powerful example. So I'm going to tell it I want to export the tracking data, and I want to send it to Nuke. And again, you have lots of choices. But I'm going to send it to Nuke, copy it to the clipboard, switch over to Nuke. Here's the same logo graphic. Paste that in. Comp that over my background. And there is my same shameless promotional logo. Okay. So that shows you the round-trip workflow between Mocha and Nuke, where you can do your roto work as well as your tracking data. So let's go back to Mocha. I am done with this. And look at another case, and that is rotoscoping. Okay, so let's look at the example of doing some roto work with Mocha. Okay, so I'm going to take a worst case scenario. We're doing a stereo conversion. Normally, if you needed to roto this guy's head, you could do one shape on the outside, and it wouldn't be very difficult. But if you're doing a stereo conversion, you need mats for every part of the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the cheeks, the ears. You need all those different rotos. So we're going to speed things along. I have already drawn these rotos here for you. So I'm going to tell this guy to light them up for you. And you can see they're not tracked at all. So I'm going to hide that. I'm going to draw a tracking shape like this. I'm going to call this face track. And I'm going to tell Mocha to track this. Even though the face is not a planar surface, it's not flat like a wall or a floor, there is enough flatness in it. If you choose carefully, you can still collect useful data, even from a non-planar surface. Okay. So I've got this face track almost done. Okay. And I'm looking at that. That looks good. I've got that. So I'm going to hide that, and then I'm going to tell my face stuff. I'm going to tell the lips to lock your lips to the face trap, lock the nose to the face track, and lock the glasses to the face track. And of course, no surprise to you, they're all now tracked. Okay. So this is the kind of labor saving that you can do by using the planar tracker as a roto assist. When you move something with a transformation or tracking data, you're moving it much more smoothly than if you keyframe all the control points. You get a lot of jitter. All right. Now there's something amiss. If we look in here, look at this part of my glasses. It's not moving right. The reason is it's over the side of the head, which is a different plane. So the motion is not correct. So I need to fix that. So what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to turn these off, and I'm going to draw a new tracking shape for the side of the head. And we'll dial these in a little bit. push this around. And now when I track this, you can see that the side of the head has a different motion. Okay, the face is doing like this, but the side of the head has got this rotational motion to it. And that's why my glasses didn't work on the side of the head. So we'll get this guy tracked up here, pick up where we left off, and track that forward to the beginning of the shot. Okay, and I'm going to call this my head track. Now if I attach, I'm going to turn off all my face stuff, open up my head. Okay, and I can hide the head track now. Here is the stuff I drew for the side of the head, and of course it's not tracking at all. So I'm going to hook that up. So I'll hook the rims of the glasses up to the head track and the ear up to the head track. And now let's see if we got a good track, and there we go. However, I still have that problem with the glasses. So let's go into the face. Let's check out those glasses here. All right, and as you can see, the green part of the glasses are not working correctly. All right, so I'm going to fix that. So I'm just going to go into the glasses and delete those last two control points so that they are no longer over the side of the head. And I'm going to use one of the new tools in Mocha 3, and that is the linker tool. This little hooky guy here, I can now click on this control point and hook it to any other control point on any other shape, like that one. Then I'll select this guy here and hook him on that shape's control point there. Okay, now they are going to be moving in unison. So I've actually stitched the control points of two different shapes together, which solves these kind of flexing problems, and it also gives you a perfect seam. There's no crack in between the plates. Some of the other kicky tools that are new with how many people out here are Mocha people? One. Okay. You'll appreciate this. One of the other kicky new features that we have now in version 3, this is a big new release, is we have groupings, folders. So I can draw a shape here. Okay, and I'll draw a second shape over here. And I'll make a third shape down here. And now I can select all of these shapes and say, I want you now to jump into a new folder, and I want to name this folder Foo. Now I can collapse it, expand it. I can select the whole folder and turn it into a different color. Come on, you go away. Okay, there we go. Let me get my folder back. Okay, so what I did was I accidentally double-clicked, which brought up the other guy. So now I can color these cyan and turn on all the mats. All right, so because they're in a folder, I can now change the color of all of them in one stroke. Visibility of the entire folder, spill it, select individual guys, unspill it, hide them all. In addition to the folders, big new thing we have here is the new Transfrom control. Turn this guy on right here. So for as many shapes as you have selected, they all get incorporated into the Transfrom control. And this gives you a group behavior. I can now do a scale in Y only, a scale in X and Y. We can do rotates. We can do skews. You're going to love this. Okay, got to do a skew. Okay, as well as a four-corner pin distortion, a perspective distortion. So this Transfrom tool allows you much more control now over keyframing the shapes than we had before. And the other cool thing we have for you is a Dopesheet. The Dopesheet. Let me show you that. For those of you not familiar with a Dopesheet has a mark for the key frames in your job. And if you have to change, if you've ever had to change the timing of your clip because you rotoed a 100-frame shot and then editorial added 4-frame handles, now all your rotos are off. So this allows you to pick up all your keyframes and just slide them over very, very elegantly. So to show you that, I'll draw a shape here. And you'll notice, I'm going to turn off my Transfrom handle. You notice this green dot down here? That says I have a keyframe. So I'm going to move the playhead to here. and I'm going to make a really big change in it. Turn off my magnifier here. All right, so I have a keyframe there. So now I'm animating, and I'll go over here and give it one more outrageous keyframe. Okay, so I've keyframed this guy. Now the clip has shifted in time. All I have to do is go to the Dopesheet, select this guy here, unfold him, and go to my spline layer. There we are. There's my 3 keyframes. So I can now pick them all up and scoot them down in time. Now watch the timeline, the green dots on the timeline, bang. They all jumped over to here. And now my new motion is retimed on the timeline in this location. Okay, so a Dopesheet is a very, very, very important tool when you're doing keyframing animation of any kind. So we have it. All right, the next thing I'd like to show you is teamwork. As you know, visual effect shots are now a team game, okay? You've got to play nice with a group of people. The visual effect shots are so large and so complex, we have to break it up between several people. So we play nice with groups. Demonstrate that. I'll start with this one here. Turn that on. Turn on all mats. Rehome the viewer. Okay, so I've broken this up between 4 people. Each person has rotoed their own character, and now I'm ready to merge them together into one project and give it to the compositors. So all we have to do is say merge a project and go get one of them and bring that in. There we go. And I want to merge another project. Go get that one. Bring it in. There we go. And one more just to prove a point. There we go. And bring that in. Okay, so now it becomes very straightforward to break your work out into a team of players and then bring it all together into a single job. The last thing I wanted to show you is this a really cool new feature in version 3, which is a camera solver. Okay, a camera solver. So let me go get that for you. Okay, here's the idea of a camera solver. I have already tracked these 3 shapes in the scene. Let me turn on their... Okay, turn these guys on for you. All right, so the point is I've already done the planar tracking. What the camera solver does, it is going to find a camera, a moving animated camera, that will correctly match the perspective of those points. So I'll get a moving camera out of this. The difference between this and a true 3D camera tracker is the 3D camera tracker uses point tracking. It tracks targets, and it computes the camera for that scene. The camera's rotation and scale, as well as the lens information, and then reference points in 3 space. This is a different concept. We're going to not discover the camera, we're going to compute a camera that correctly matches it. So it's not a mathematical duplication of the scene. The way I do that is I simply tell it which of these planes. So remember, the first thing you have to do is track your planes. Then I'll come to the Camera Solve tab, and I'll say, I want you to solve a large parallax shot. Go and solve. You have some choices on the kinds of camera motion that you can tell the solver to look for. So it's going in and computing the location of a camera that would correctly match the perspective for these 3 planar surfaces. The distinction is that it's not going to give me all the points from all the objects around the scene. All right, so I'm all done. I can now export this camera data, and I'm going to export it to Nuke. The file interchange I'm using is the FBX file format. Everybody familiar with FBX? It's an interchange format for 3D packages, so that you can export data from Maya and bring it into 3D Studio Max. The FBX file supports, cameras, geometry, lights, texture maps, all that kind of thing. So I can export all my stuff to Nuke by saving out this FBX file here. And then I'll go to Nuke, bring in the exact same shot. Now I'll show you what happens in Nuke. To bring this in, I'm going to say I want to use a read geo node. I want to go get that FBX file. There. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll bring that in, And I'll tell the Regio node that I want a point cloud, switch to 3D, punch it up. Okay, there's my point cloud. I got this set of points is from the plane on the left, and this set of points is from that wall on the right, and this set of points is the ground. Now I need the camera, so I'll tell Nuke to give me a camera, and then I'll load the same FBX file in. Only the camera will pull out from that file just the camera information that it wants. So it's the same FBX file. In other words, all the data is in that one FBX file, but each item pulls in what it wants. Okay, so now I should have a camera. Okay, that looks reasonable. Now if I look through the 3D camera's viewfinder, I'll play the clip and say, does this look reasonable? Yes, it looks like my point cloud is moving correctly. I'll compare it to the original clip. I'm going to hook a viewer up to that, turn on my original clip, hook a viewer up. There's my original clip. Then I'm going to do a little snaky thing that you can only do in Nuke, but that's okay. All right, so I'm putting my point cloud over my background and playing it. So I'm seeing that point cloud and the camera is rendering it, and I'm checking that it locks to the plate in 3D, and it does. Yes. 2. Thank you for asking. A minimum of 2 planes, a wall and a floor and the back wall, or 2 walls, but a minimum of 2 planes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm convinced that I've got a decent camera solve here. So I'm going to now show you, I've got the shot all set up for you real pretty. All right, so what I've done is I've put in my scary monster here. Let me turn off this. Okay, so I put in a scary monster and I've lined it up using the point cloud to position everything correctly. There is my 3D camera. What I've done is I've just rotated the scene to line it up with the ground. That's all. All right, so there's my camera. If I look through my solved camera viewfinder, I now see my 3D object is now moving correctly with the point cloud. So I'm happy with that. So now I'll go look at the 2D render. There it is. So that looks good. And of course I have an alpha channel, so I can composite it now. All I have to do is composite this guy over the original background plate like that. Okay, now I have a 3D object correctly blended with my 2D environment. I'll play that for you. Okay. Now, the bummer is that there's a stop sign in that 2D plate. Okay. So if, in other words, I could show you this. Is if I toggle my character on and off, you can see he should be behind the stop sign. Okay, not a problem. We can use Mocha to plug up this little hole. So let me bounce back to Mocha. And I've already prepared this guy right here, this sign mask, and I've already, in other words, this is a shape that I just tracked in Mocha. As before, I can export that shape into Nuke. So let me do that for you. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to say, I want you to export my shape to Nuke as a Nuke Roto. I'll copy that to the clipboard, switch to Nuke, paste that in here, hook it up. These are the nodes that tell Nuke how to use that shape. And there we go. And now my scary monster is behind the stop sign. Okay. So just to recap, the core technology in Mocha is this magical planar tracker. It's immune to grain and noise and light changes, and it'll even track a whip pan. That core technology is used for rotoscoping, for tracking. The Mocha Pro has facilities for using that same tracker to do lens distortions, insert and remove objects, as well as the camera solver. Okay? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. No autographs, no autographs. No pictures.